The skyline of Dubai glittered like a sea of diamonds that night. Towering skyscrapers reflected the neon glow onto the tranquil waters of the marina, while luxury yachts drifted silently under the moonlight. The city pulsed with wealth and ambition, a playground for the rich and powerful, a place where dreams and danger often collided. Among the elite circles that navigated this glamorous world, Khalid Al-Hassan was a man who commanded respect. At 45, he was a senior airline pilot with a career spanning over 2 decades. To the public, he was disciplined, charismatic, and impeccably polished, a man whose very presence radiated authority. But behind closed doors, there were whispers of secrets, of obsessions that could not remain hidden forever. It was on this very night that the ordinary world of a young co-pilot named Aisha Malik would intersect with Khalid's carefully constructed life. At just 23, Aisha had already shown remarkable skill and dedication. She was ambitious, eager to prove herself in a male-dominated field, and unaware that the glamour and excitement of the aviation industry sometimes concealed the shadows of obsession and danger. The first flight they shared together was uneventful on the surface. Passengers boarded with smiles, flight attendants performed their rehearsed routines, and Khalid's calm, authoritative voice guided the crew. But behind his professional demeanor, Khalid observed Aisha with an intensity that went unnoticed by the others. Aisha, for her part, admired Khalid's experience and knowledge. His mentorship felt invaluable, and she trusted his guidance implicitly. She had no reason to suspect that what began as professional admiration would soon cross the invisible line into something far more perilous. Outside the plane, Dubai shimmered like a city untouched by reality, a place where the wealthy could mask their transgressions behind glittering facades. Inside, Khalid and Aisha's fates were beginning to intertwine in ways neither could yet foresee. A simple glance exchanged in the cockpit, a quiet compliment, a lingering moment of attention, all the small gestures that would lay the foundation for a secret neither could control. As the plane soared into the night sky, the hum of the engines became a lullaby masking the tension that was beginning to simmer. In the luxurious suites and high-rise apartments below, the city's elite carried on with their lives, oblivious to the storm that was quietly gathering within the walls of Khalid's carefully curated existence. For Aisha, the thrill of flying, the respect of a senior pilot, and the allure of Dubai's opulence were intoxicating. For Khalid, the sight of youthful ambition, beauty, and vulnerability stirred something far darker than mentorship, a secret that would soon spiral into obsession. And so, in the dazzling heart of Dubai, a story of ambition, temptation, and dangerous desire quietly began, a story that would soon end in tragedy. If you love true crime stories filled with suspense and shocking revelations, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what happens next. In the days following their first flight together, Khalid and Aisha found themselves crossing paths more frequently. At the airline's bustling Dubai hub, Aisha's presence seemed to capture Khalid's attention at every turn. It began innocently enough, a word of praise for a perfectly executed maneuver, a nod of encouragement in the briefing room. But beneath these professional gestures, something far more personal was stirring. Dubai's skyline gleamed through the terminal windows, a constant reminder of the wealth and power that permeated every corner of the city. For Khalid, this city was both a playground and a stage, a place where influence could mask even the darkest impulses. For Aisha, it was a dream, a city of opportunity, of luxurious hotels and private jets, a gateway to the life she had always imagined. It was during one of these routine flights that the boundary between mentor and obsession began to blur. Khalid suggested a private review session after hours, ostensibly to go over flight logs and cockpit procedures. Aisha, eager to learn, agreed without hesitation. The dim glow of the office, the hushed silence of the empty terminal, and the closeness of their seating created an intimacy neither had anticipated. Khalid's charm was subtle but effective. Compliments on her skill, casual touches on her shoulder, and lingering glances conveyed an interest far beyond professional mentorship. Aisha felt a strange mix of excitement and unease. She was flattered, yes, but a small voice in the back of her mind whispered warnings she wasn't yet ready to hear. The affair escalated quickly. Late-night messages hidden from colleagues and family became a constant presence in Aisha's life. Khalid sent gifts, luxury watches, designer scarves, even invitations to exclusive events. The gifts, though wrapped in generosity, carried an unspoken expectation: loyalty, secrecy, and obedience. Dubai's elite nightlife soon became the backdrop of their secret meetings. Rooftop lounges overlooking the glittering city, private hotel suites, and the occasional chartered yacht served as stages for their forbidden romance. Each encounter, though thrilling, tightened the invisible chains of control Khalid wove around Aisha. She was drawn to the luxury and attention, yet increasingly aware of the power imbalance that left her vulnerable. Meanwhile, the workplace began to notice subtle changes. Colleagues whispered about the extra time Khalid and Aisha spent together, the private briefings, the unusual flights they were assigned. Aisha's rising star was no secret, but the nature of her relationship with Khalid remained hidden, carefully concealed behind smiles and professional decorum. Despite the excitement and glamour, an undercurrent of fear began to take root. Aisha started noticing subtle warnings: Khalid's jealousy, the way he monitored her messages, the thinly veiled threats whenever she hinted at independence. What began as admiration had begun its transformation into obsession, and the consequences of crossing that line would soon become inevitable. In the luxury and allure of Dubai, the first sparks of a dangerous and clandestine affair had been ignited. And while neither could foresee the ultimate outcome, the threads of desire, control, and ambition were being woven into a web from which there would be no escape. By now, Khalid and Aisha had settled into a rhythm of secrecy, their clandestine meetings hidden behind the polished veneer of professionalism. At the airline, Khalid remained the respected senior pilot, commanding authority and admiration. But at home, the cracks in his carefully maintained facade were beginning to show. Fatima, his wife, had begun to notice subtle changes. Khalid's late nights were becoming more frequent, his explanations more vague. A sudden interest in fashion, exclusive dinners, and unexplained trips piqued her curiosity. Though she trusted him on the surface, a growing unease gnawed at the edges of her confidence. Something in Khalid's demeanor felt different, distant, distracted, and occasionally tense. Meanwhile, Aisha's life had transformed in ways she had never imagined. The thrill of secret rendezvous, luxury gifts, and whispered compliments carried a heady mix of excitement and fear. Every private meeting, whether at a rooftop lounge or an exclusive hotel suite, reinforced her dependency on Khalid. She was deeply aware of his control, but found herself powerless to resist the allure of attention and privilege. At the airline, subtle tensions began to surface. Colleagues whispered about the frequent pairing of Khalid and Aisha on flights, noting the extra care he seemed to take when mentoring her. Aisha's promotions and responsibilities increased rapidly, further fueling speculation. Though nothing could be confirmed, the silent suspicion lingered, like a shadow over every interaction. Khalid, for his part, was carefully orchestrating every aspect of his double life. Every gift, every invitation, every message was calculated to maintain control over Aisha while keeping Fatima unaware. Yet the strain was growing. Managing a wife, an ambitious young co-pilot, and a public persona required constant vigilance. The tension, invisible to most, was palpable to those closest to him. Aisha's fear began to intensify in small, quiet ways. A lingering stare from Khalid when she mentioned other colleagues, a subtle question about her personal life, a barely veiled warning about disobedience. Each moment added weight to the invisible cage around her. She started noticing the power imbalance, understanding that her career, reputation, and even safety were tied to Khalid's moods and whims. Outside the cockpit, Dubai's elite society continued its glittering masquerade. From the high-rise parties to the yacht clubs, the city offered opulence that masked human frailty and moral compromise. Within this glamorous environment, Khalid and Aisha's affair thrived. Yet the consequences of such a union were quietly, inexorably approaching. The thrill of the secret meetings, the allure of forbidden romance, and the intoxicating power of wealth had created a delicate balance, a balance that could shatter at any moment. The seeds of betrayal and tragedy were sown, though neither Khalid, Aisha, nor Fatima could fully comprehend the storm gathering on the horizon. Every glance, every whispered word, and every secret encounter tightened the threads of a web that would soon ensnare them all. The city glittered around them, oblivious to the unfolding drama, yet beneath the surface, danger lurked, patient, inevitable, and deadly. Fatima Al-Hassan had always trusted her husband implicitly. She admired Khalid's discipline, his charm, and the life they had built together. Yet, over the past few months, a subtle unease had begun to creep into her thoughts. Late nights, evasive answers, and secretive phone calls made her question the man she thought she knew. Determined to uncover the truth, Fatima hired a discreet private investigator. Within days, the veil was lifted. Messages, photographs, and hotel receipts painted a picture she could no longer ignore. Khalid's hidden life, his secret meetings with Aisha, the gifts, and the whispered promises, was laid bare before her eyes. The confrontation was inevitable. One evening, under the golden glow of their penthouse lights overlooking the city, Fatima confronted Khalid. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned with a mixture of sorrow and fury. "Khalid, I know everything," she said. "The flights, the messages, the hotels, how could you betray us like this?" Khalid's face betrayed a flicker of surprise, quickly masked by defensiveness. "It's not what you think," he said, his tone measured, almost rehearsed. "You're jumping to conclusions." Fatima stepped closer, her hands trembling but her resolve firm. "Don't lie to me. I have proof. I know about her. I know what you've been doing behind my back." Khalid's calm facade began to crack. His eyes hardened, and for the first time the manipulative charm that had ensnared Aisha revealed its dangerous edge. "You don't understand," he said, his voice low, threatening. "If anyone interferes, there will be consequences." Aisha's role was suddenly exposed. Fatima demanded to speak with her, and Aisha, trembling, appeared. The young co-pilot's face was pale, fear etched into her features. She had expected secrecy, but not this confrontation. The tension in the penthouse was suffocating. Khalid's dual lives had collided in a violent, emotional storm. Words were exchanged, accusations hurled, and emotions flared. Fatima's sense of betrayal was palpable, her heartbreak interlaced with simmering anger. Aisha's fear was equally tangible. Caught between Khalid's manipulations and Fatima's wrath, she felt powerless. For a brief moment, the city outside seemed indifferent, its glittering lights hiding the moral chaos within. But inside that luxurious apartment, the hidden affair had been laid bare, and the consequences were already beginning to take shape. Khalid, once in control, was faced with exposure. Aisha, once seduced by luxury and attention, confronted the real danger of her situation. And Fatima, the wronged wife, was left grappling with the enormity of betrayal. The confrontation in the penthouse left a scar deeper than any visible wound. Khalid Al-Hassan, a man accustomed to control, now found himself cornered. His carefully orchestrated life had unraveled in a single evening, exposing the secret he had guarded for months. The realization that his affair, and the threat it posed to his wealth, reputation, and freedom, could be destroyed by one woman's discovery ignited a dangerous resolve within him. Khalid spent the following days in silence, pacing the expansive corridors of his penthouse overlooking Dubai's glittering skyline. Every luxurious detail of his life, the gold-plated fixtures, the private elevators, the sprawling views of the city, now felt like a cage. The glamour that once masked his power had transformed into a stage for impending disaster. Meanwhile, Aisha, unaware of the full extent of Khalid's growing desperation, continued her routine at the airline. She sensed a shift in his behavior, colder words, sharper glances, and an intensity that had previously been masked by charm. The thrill that had once accompanied their secret encounters was now tinged with fear. For the first time, she realized the true cost of entangling herself in a man who wielded control as naturally as he flew planes. Khalid's plan began to take shape with meticulous precision. Every detail mattered: timing, location, and the illusion of normalcy. He could not allow anyone to discover the affair, especially not Fatima, whose investigative skills had already proven formidable. He needed to neutralize the threat without leaving traces that could tie him to disaster. Late at night, he reviewed every moment that could be used against him: emails, flight logs, hotel bookings, security footage. Khalid was a man who thrived on calculation, yet the intensity of his obsession with Aisha made his judgment dangerously erratic. Each message from her, each call from Fatima, was a reminder of the fragility of his empire of secrecy. Aisha, increasingly aware of the controlling nature of her lover, began to sense the danger closing in. Subtle threats, questions about her loyalty, reminders of her career dependence, had started to weigh heavily. The luxury and excitement she had once cherished now felt like a gilded cage. Outside the penthouse, Dubai's elite world carried on, oblivious to the storm gathering above the city's glittering skyline. Invitations to high society gatherings, private parties, and exclusive events continued, but within the confines of Khalid's apartment, morality and obsession collided. The very city that had offered them opulence now became a silent witness to the tension, a backdrop to a tragedy in the making. As the days progressed, the final pieces of Khalid's plan were set into motion. He ensured that the location, timing, and circumstances would give him the illusion of control. Yet, with every step, the web of deception grew more complex, ensnaring not only Aisha and Fatima but himself in a trap he could no longer fully anticipate. By the night the plan was ready to unfold, the air was thick with anticipation and dread. Khalid's desperation had transformed into cold determination. Aisha's fear had evolved into the realization that her life could be in grave danger. Fatima, though unaware of the exact moment, sensed that the confrontation had set something irreversible into motion. In the opulent heart of Dubai, a deadly dance was about to begin. The threads of obsession, betrayal, and power had been carefully entwined, and soon the consequences would be unavoidable. The city's glittering lights, once symbols of wealth and desire, now reflected the shadowy intentions of a man who had taken control one step too far. The night air in Dubai was unusually still, as if the city itself held its breath. From the shimmering skyline to the quiet corridors of the penthouse, everything seemed poised on the edge of inevitability. Khalid Al-Hassan moved with calculated precision, every step measured, every gesture controlled. The luxury that had once felt like a shield now seemed like a stage, exposing every flaw in his carefully curated life. Aisha arrived, her heart pounding, the thrill of their encounters now replaced by a gnawing fear she could no longer ignore. The previous confrontations, the subtle threats, the glimpses of Khalid's controlling nature, they all converged into a chilling awareness. This night could change everything. The penthouse was silent save for the faint hum of the city below. Khalid's demeanor was calm on the surface, yet there was an unmistakable tension in his posture. His eyes, once warm and alluring, now carried a dangerous intensity. He spoke softly, almost soothingly, but every word was laced with expectation and veiled threat. "You know why we're here," he said, his voice low. "Tonight we need to set things straight." Aisha's breath caught in her throat. She understood the unspoken meaning behind his words. Fear gripped her, but she was trapped by circumstance, by ambition, and by the man whose control had grown in tandem with her admiration. The confrontation escalated quickly. Voices rose, emotions boiled over, and a struggle ensued. In the confined luxury of the penthouse, the glittering skyline outside felt distant and indifferent. The struggle, though brief, was intense. Khalid, in his desperation to maintain control and protect his secret, crossed a line that could never be undone. When the chaos subsided, the consequences were irreversible. Aisha lay lifeless, the culmination of obsession, betrayal, and a desire for control. Khalid stood over the scene, the weight of his actions pressing down, yet the thrill of power mingled with fear, fear of discovery, fear of justice, fear of losing everything. Panic set in immediately. The luxury apartment, once a haven of wealth and comfort, now felt like a trap. Every sound, the faint creak of the floorboards, the distant hum of traffic, reminded Khalid of the fragile barrier between secrecy and exposure. He moved methodically, attempting to erase evidence, to construct a narrative that would protect him, yet every decision was shadowed by the knowledge that one misstep could unravel everything. Outside, Dubai carried on, oblivious to the tragedy that had unfolded within the penthouse walls. The city's glittering lights reflected off the glass and marble, masking the darkness that had taken root above. Khalid's obsession, ambition, and desperation had culminated in a single, fatal moment, a moment that would soon draw the attention of law enforcement and thrust him into a web of scrutiny and investigation. The night closed in like a silent witness. The threads of betrayal, desire, and deadly intent had been fully woven, and nothing would ever be the same again. The morning after the tragedy, Dubai awoke to its usual rhythm of luxury and ambition, completely unaware that a dark secret had unfolded high above the city streets. Within hours, however, the quiet would be shattered by the arrival of law enforcement, forensic teams, and the cold scrutiny of justice. Detectives moved quickly. Dubai authorities were precise and meticulous, accustomed to handling cases involving the city's elite. The penthouse, once a scene of opulence and wealth, was now a crime scene. Investigators combed through every corner, photographs, phone records, flight logs, and security footage, each piece of evidence slowly revealing the chilling reality of Khalid's double life. Neighbors and hotel staff were interviewed. Subtle discrepancies in Khalid's statements, combined with security footage showing Aisha entering the penthouse that night, painted a damning picture. The private investigator Fatima had hired provided critical insight, confirming the affair and establishing motive. Khalid, aware of the investigation, attempted to maintain his composure. He knew the stakes were higher than ever. Exposure would destroy his career, wealth, and reputation. He meticulously rehearsed his statements, hoping to manipulate perceptions, but the weight of evidence was mounting against him. For Aisha's family, the investigation was a nightmare. Their grief was compounded by the shock of discovering the manipulations, deceit, and betrayal that had led to her death. They cooperated fully with authorities, providing statements that would prove crucial in piecing together the events of that fatal night. Within days, the case reached its dramatic turning point. Khalid was summoned under pretense, yet the authorities had already gathered sufficient evidence. The arrest was executed swiftly. Detectives arrived at the penthouse, and Khalid, once confident in his control, found himself facing the unyielding machinery of justice. Handcuffed and led away, Khalid's expression was a mix of defiance and disbelief. Dubai's elite whispered among themselves, the scandal spreading through social circles like wildfire. News outlets began reporting on the tragedy, and the image of a respected senior pilot unraveling into criminality captured the city's fascination and horror. In the aftermath, colleagues, friends, and family grappled with the reality of Khalid's actions. The layers of deception, manipulation, and obsession had finally come to light, leaving a trail of heartbreak, shattered trust, and irrevocable loss. Dubai's glittering skyline remained indifferent to human tragedy, its beauty a stark contrast to the darkness that had unfolded within its most luxurious corners. The courtroom was packed, every seat filled with journalists, family members, and curious onlookers eager to witness the trial of Khalid Al-Hassan, the once respected senior pilot whose life of luxury had ended in tragedy. The atmosphere was tense, a mixture of grief, anger, and anticipation, as the case that had shocked Dubai's elite finally reached its day of reckoning. Fatima Al-Hassan sat in the front row, composed yet visibly strained. The pain of betrayal and loss was etched on her face, a testament to the ordeal she had endured. Across the courtroom, Aisha Malik's family watched with grief and solemnity, hoping that justice would honor the life that had been cut short. The prosecution meticulously laid out the case. Evidence of the affair, messages between Khalid and Aisha, hotel bookings, and witness testimonies painted a damning picture. Each exhibit and statement highlighted not only the deception, but also the premeditation behind the fatal events. The courtroom became a stage where truth, betrayal, and consequence collided. Witnesses were called one by one. Colleagues described Khalid's unusual behavior, the secretive flights, and subtle favoritism. The private investigator who had uncovered the affair testified, confirming the timeline of deceit and betrayal. Every revelation added weight to the charges against Khalid, underscoring the deliberate nature of his actions. When Khalid took the stand, he attempted to maintain control, presenting his side with rehearsed calm and deflection. But the evidence was insurmountable. The inconsistencies in his statements, the digital footprints of his obsession, and the irrefutable proof of Aisha's fate left no room for doubt. Even his eloquence could not mask the reality of guilt. After days of testimonies, arguments, and deliberations, the court reached a verdict. Khalid Al-Hassan was found guilty of murder, manipulation, and abuse of power. The sentencing was severe but fitting, a reflection of the gravity of his crimes. Justice, though unable to undo the tragedy, ensured accountability and closure for the families affected. Outside the courtroom, the city buzzed with the aftermath. Dubai's elite whispered in disbelief, while the public absorbed the details of a story that had captivated and horrified them. Fatima and Aisha's family, though still grieving, felt a measure of relief. The truth had been revealed, and Khalid's reign of deception had come to an end. The trial served as a stark reminder. Wealth, status, and charm could not shield someone from the consequences of obsession and betrayal. The sun rose over Dubai once more, casting golden light across the city's glittering skyline. From above, the metropolis appeared serene and perfect, but beneath its gleaming surface, the echoes of tragedy lingered. Khalid Al-Hassan was behind bars, his empire of luxury and influence reduced to a cautionary tale. Aisha Malik's life, tragically cut short, became a haunting reminder of how ambition, desire, and vulnerability can collide with deadly consequences. Fatima Al-Hassan faced a complicated future. The betrayal had left emotional scars, yet she found strength in the truth coming to light and the justice that followed. Her resilience became a symbol of accountability and dignity in the face of heartbreak. Aisha's family, though forever grieving, took solace in knowing the law had recognized the injustice done to their daughter, validating the life that had been stolen. The story of Khalid and Aisha serves as a stark reflection on the dangers of power, obsession, and secrecy. Desire unchecked by morality and manipulation hidden behind charm can lead to devastating outcomes. It reminds us that no amount of wealth or status can insulate anyone from the consequences of their actions. For Dubai's elite, the scandal sent shockwaves through social circles, prompting whispers, cautionary tales, and a reevaluation of trust and loyalty. Beyond the opulent hotels, private jets, and skyscrapers, the human cost of deception and betrayal had been laid bare. Ultimately, the tragedy is not just about the loss of life. It is about the ripple effects of obsession and moral compromise. Careers, families, and reputations can be forever altered by the choices individuals make when driven by desire and control. Khalid's downfall was complete, a chilling reminder that every action has consequences, no matter how well hidden it may seem. As the city carried on with its dazzling facade, the lessons of this story remained. Trust must be earned, boundaries respected, and actions measured. Obsession, deceit, and the misuse of power are paths that can only lead to destruction. If you want more true crime stories that reveal the dark truths behind wealth, obsession, and betrayal, subscribe now and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss our next shocking story.